Welcome everybody to another episode of Ascension Talk with Ariella. I am absolutely beyond thrilled and beyond honoured, excited to introduce my special guest to you today. And she really is a special guest, and she's really got a special place in my heart because Mary Rodwell, as you can see on your screen, Mary was actually one of my primary activators when I was going through my multidimensional awakening. And so I feel very connected to Mary. I've had the honor of Mary, and it blew me away that I was like, wow, this is great manifestation. Mary actually came to stay at my house last year, and you taught a workshop, one of your incredible regression workshops at my house, and stayed over for a few days. So I was like, I've manifested Mary Rodwell in my house. And, you know, going from the time when I was going through this galactic awakening, and I first saw you on YouTube, because it was an incredible lecture that you were doing all about the new humans and about hybrids. You were the first, I give you the gratitude as well, because you were the first person that showed me what this strange language was that I had been speaking on and off over the years in my sleep, which had baffled me. So Mary, you took the lid off of a lot of stuff for me, and I love you as a person. I love your spirit. I love your soul. You're a fellow Brit. You're now living in Australia. And we both, as we were saying before we hit the record, we both have a love of cutting away the fluff and getting right down to business. So I love you, and I love chatting to you. So welcome to the show, Mary.
Ariella, it's an absolute pleasure. And I was wondering when you were saying all that, whether you really thanked me for the fact that your life changed. And I'm inclined to do that more and more. So I'm not sure whether everyone's going to thank me when I actually, you know, leave this mortal plane. But anyway, to get into, we were talking about what area of the multidimensional area that I'm exploring at the moment with my latest research, and we're talking about the hybrid side of it. So I said I've got a really interesting story,
which I can't wait for us to go down the hybrid rabbit hole with Mary Rodwell. This is going to be amazing. Let's start at the beginning. So what are the hybrids? So for our viewers, like, you know, people say about starseeds, indigos, hybrids. What is the difference?
Well, it's a good question. It depends on what level you want to look at this. First of all, looking at all the DNA and the anomalies in our DNA, much of my research, you know, I talk about in The New Human, is the fact that we're all hybrids, in the sense that we're not just indigenous to this planet. We have many other species, we call, you know, the star visitors, star beings, that have added parts of their own DNA to our DNA to create Homo sapiens sapiens. And, you know, I go into the very tangible side of how our DNA has been altered and changed, and certain whistleblower geneticists will talk about that. So that's one aspect. So yes, we're all hybrids for a start, but there has been an acceleration of awareness to a new sense of hybrid, in the sense that now there are people that not only relate to being a starseed, that they feel they've come from somewhere else, another galaxy, another universe, dimension, or whatever, but have also related themselves more to their star family than to their human family. So they will say, I'm a hybrid and I'm part Arcturian, or I'm part Pleiadian or Syrian or whatever. What that means is that they're connecting more to that part of their DNA than their human part. And some of them, like I talk about a Spanish girl who is 16, who told me that she realized she was a hybrid at 15. That part of her was activated. So some people have it activated very young. There'll be those that suddenly at some point in their spiritual growth start to realize this connection to the stars. They might be 50, they might be 60. It doesn't, you know, for every soul it's different. But the interesting thing is now, what I'm learning is there are different levels of hybrid. In other words, some with more of their star family DNA than others. And they really relate to the hybrid nature of who they are. And they will find it very hard to be on this planet. Many of them, they feel very, very different. They're certainly very spiritually aware, or at least multidimensionally aware, in the sense they're very psychic, intuitive, clairvoyant, clairaudient. They'll see orbs, maybe they'll see energy fields, they may see spirits, they may see non-human intelligences, bald-headed guys with black eyes, blue, various forms. They may see lion beings, they may see feline beings, crystalline beings, light beings, all these different ones, and it can be very confusing for some of them as well. So the hybrid is, there are different levels to awareness with the hybrid itself. Now, there are some women that have missing pregnancies and will find out that they've got children on board craft who are hybrids. And the story that I think your audience may find interesting is one, because it's a bit of very tangible reality, because this former air hostess in Brazil who I met, who contacted me because she found that standard researchers just couldn't handle what she was saying. Beautiful lady, you know, she's got, I think, 3 or 4 children. And her story was like this, that when she was still working as an air hostess, she was in a hotel and she was going to breakfast. And as she was going down the passageway, she saw this little girl who looked about 11. And she was worried because she thought the little girl was lost because her parents didn't seem to be about. As she went up to her to say, you know, where are your parents? This little girl turns round and looks at her. And she said, well, I thought she was a monster because she was part human and part feline.
Oh, wow.
And it literally scared her so much that she ran away. A few years later, this lady was on board a spacecraft, and there is this little girl that's a humanoid, along with others that she then realized were her kids too. And she then saw her 6-year-old human daughter on board spacecraft playing with her hybrid sisters.
Whoa.
Okay?
That's crazy.
It's a whole new level of hybrids, because we know many of those that are having encounters, some of them I've found out they've got hybrid children on board craft, have been taken to see them. And that may be one of many different hybrids.
How did this happen there? I mean, that is a fascinating, mind-blowing story. Thank you for sharing that. You're right. Me and the audience do love it. This is right up our street. So how did this air hostess find herself on the craft? That would be my first question.
The first question that I found out was that when she was a child, she could see these beings coming in her bedroom, but she also saw a tall being she called Mother, who was part human, part feline, who she had this wonderful connection to.
Oh, wow.
She didn't really appreciate the reality of it. She just thought she was imagining things and what have you. But as she started to open up, she started to realize that this was real, and the dreams that weren't dreams. And I would say to those listening, if you've ever had a dream of being on a spacecraft and you still remember it, it's very likely not a dream. So you have to look at dreams very carefully. But as she started to open up to more of the reality, she started to be aware that she was going on board spacecraft, and she was being shown things. She was being shown these beings. She was also being shown how she was helping this planet with its shift. She was being shown this as well as a daughter being part of it. But that's not all. What was interesting was that out of the blue, she suddenly got this message in her head. Your 6-year-old human daughter is a hybrid. Now, she didn't know what to do with that. 2 days later, her husband wakes up in the middle of the night and says to her, you do realize our 6-year-old daughter is a hybrid.
Wow.
And you know why he said that?
Open?
Well, you know why he said that? Because he said that he'd seen their daughter out of body and she was a mantid being.
Oh, wow.
Right? So this takes it to a whole new level of hybrid, human hybrid mantid. Okay.
Mantid beings are, I know what they are, but just explain to the audience.
They are they look a bit like a praying mantis. They are master geneticists for those that want to know what they do. So they do a lot in terms of the genetic manipulation on other planets, other universes, as well as obviously Earth. So what she was finding out via confirmation from her husband was in fact that her human daughter was also a hybrid. Wasn't just primarily human, but was actually, okay.
What about the husband?
Oh, I've got something to tell you about the husband. I told you this was an interesting story, didn't I?
Yeah, yeah.
The husband, one of the things that Amanda told me, she said this is probably last year, because I've been hearing a story and expanding as more things happen as she opens up, there was one time when her husband got really angry and she said he suddenly looked like a lizard.
Oh, wow.
Started to get the strange eyes and the tongue. And then when he calmed down, he went back to normal, and it scared her. And she said to him, sometimes when you get angry, you look almost like a lizard. And he said, yes, I've seen it in the mirror.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So so she said when he gets really angry, but he's a lovely husband. There's nothing, wrong with him or whatever.
No, because not all reptilians are
bad.
No.
Or evil or anything. There are some that are evolving. And we have humans.
I had a client who was a reptile, and she was very pure.
Yeah.
But when we discovered it, it made a lot of sense to her. So yeah, she had already transitioned away from their sort of,
Absolutely. There are a lot on this planet that are hybrids that have that part of them, whether it's reptilian, whether it's a grey, whether it's a line being, crystalline being, whatever, are being activated now due to the frequencies hitting the planet that are helping us to wake up to more of who we are, more of our origin, which includes all our multidimensional abilities, but also our connection to the star families or our origins. I mean, I had an 8-year-old tell me that his ancestors were mantid beings, that when he dies, he's going back to being a mantid. But when he goes on board spacecraft sometimes, he explained to me that sometimes he evaporates his essence into the mantid form on board spacecraft for a time, and then comes back into his human form. Now, this is an 8-year-old.
This is an 8-year-old, yeah.
Okay.
That's incredible.
And what I need to say too, that the research that we've done with over 4,000 people,
wow,
with 600 questions on all different aspects of contact, we have discovered now that 75% of contact is out of body. Only 25% is physical.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
So in the dream states, when people are traveling,
they are living and on board spacecraft as a consciousness rather than.
That's really interesting. And I'm just like relating it to my own experiences, right? Because as you know, I've had a lot of experiences, and some of which I'm only recalling, like a lot of which I'm only recalling as I get older.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, I think I already said this to you when you were over last year, but I had it and I remember asking you this question because, these weird things happened, right? I've had it before where I've woken up in my bed and I must be like coming back from the astral or something, and there was this tiny, tiny, weeny spacecraft in my bedroom, and as soon as I kind of came back in my body, it went. And it left my room.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to you, Mary, is that possible that happened? And you said yes. because actually, and even that could have been a physical experience, you said, because of course they can shrink, like the time space.
They come through the portals, and there are people that have said an orb has come in their room and a spacecraft has come out of it. So they're like portals. They create portals.
Interesting.
We can be a portal too.
I have been a portal. I'm still am a portal, but I know how to control it now.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, so some of the children that I speak to also talk about that. I mean, I was speaking to a young, I think he was 7 years old, the one that was telling me that he can go to other planets through the portal of the runes. And he says, I just need to know their mathematical number, their frequency.
Oh, wow.
And then he can actually go to different places in the universe through the runes.
That's incredible. No, I'm not that type of portal. What I have, and I still have it in my crown chakra and in my third eye chakra, I have a interdimensional portal where beings travel through me, which is why I was waking up for so many years and there were different beings in my bedroom, which was very frightening. So before I go to sleep at night, I close the portals down. And since I've been doing that, I've had much better night's sleep. But it is, you know, I've got one of your books here on my desk, The New Human, Awakening to Your Cosmic Heritage. Your other book, your first book was called Awakening.
Awakening, yes.
Wasn't it? Yeah, which I've also read.
Hold on a minute, I should be able to find it. Here we go. It's full of, they're both incredible books, and I've read them both, and they have enlightened me hugely. And what I am always very impressed with you and the work that you do, I mean, this is like serious research that you've done. As you say, it was over 4,000 now, it was like 3,000. I mean, you do a ton of work with people in this space, and it's people of all backgrounds, isn't it? Yes. In The New Human, I've even got the story of a medical doctor. I've got the stories of molecular biologists and educators. Also in what I call the God chapter, I've got 2 ministers of religion explaining how to expand their belief system around Christianity to incorporate their ET experiences and past life memories. And one of them has been a minister of religion for 40 years. Wow, that's amazing. What was important, that's exciting. When you've got such what to a lot of people is such an incredible phenomena, the more you can bring in tangibility, the more that you can bring in people that are coming from a respected space, helps with the integration of what's going on the planet itself. And it's like the MD, Dr. Batchelor, who is an MD in Melbourne. Her story came out to start with when I was doing an afterlife conference, and she came up to me, and basically after my presentation, she said, everything that you're saying I've experienced. And she was actually really emotional. And from that, she's gone from being a medical doctor, 3D medical doctor, into what she calls herself now a shamanic MD, because she's activating DNA. So you can't go very much more to the other side of that polarity than from the 3D to the multidimensional. And the thing that I think is very powerful is when you've got those that are highly educated, often they're the ones that are struggling the most once they start to open up. And I've worked with physicists and lawyers and psychiatrists and social workers, you name it. Yes. Right across the board, people that are considered to be very credible, very grounded, but are having these experiences. Yes. So it's not just the little housewife down the road or the farmer. It's children from, that'll talk about their experience 2 or 3 years old, right up to 85, 90 years old. We're talking about culture doesn't matter. You don't have to believe in aliens to see them.
No.
You know, whether you believe in them or not is immaterial, because you are meant to see them, you will see them. And this is really what people have to understand. It's not about belief. It's not about the fact that you like Star Trek or don't like Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's going to, you know, when I get this a lot with the media, you know, so do you believe them? And one of the things I will say is, you know, and it still stays with me, my answer to, it was Breakfast Television, I think it was, and she said, oh, do you believe them then? And I said, look, I've never been to Alaska. If enough people have been to Alaska and they show me the pictures and they talk about it, then I may never go to Alaska, but I've got to believe it exists. So there's bringing it right down to the pragmatic, if you like.
Yeah. Well, there's so many people, as you say now, who are having these experiences and who are talking about it openly, thanks to people like yourself. You know, you are a key pioneer and are really giving people the courage and the permission through the work that you're doing and the platform that you've created, so that people feel less isolated and less like fearful, right, of the shame that they're gonna, because it can ruin people's lives. I mean, you know, you're talking about professionals here, psychiatrists, you know, people that, you know, if their communities knew or what they were talking about, they could be, you know, blacklisted, right? And as we were saying before the interview, we're still here needing to be in 3D at the moment and needing to keep roofs over our heads. So it's a big wall of resistance. So I think about you. I think about, there are some other amazing pioneers as well. You will know his name. Who's the guy who did the Disclosure Project?
Oh, Dr. Stephen Greer.
Was it Dr. Stephen Greer who had all of the people who were from
the whistleblowers?
Speaking out. Was it Steve? Okay, I was thinking of him, but okay.
Dr. Stephen Greer, I think it was 2001. He held it in Washington. And it was, he got a lot of the military whistleblowers that have seen the craft, those are the ones that have recovered the beings and what have you as well. Those that have, you know, seen the footage taken from military aircraft, taken from Navy ships and what have you. Those that have come from under the ocean and what have you. Amazing. And they were just saying it's all hidden. And of course, what's hidden also is what they've taken on the moon and what's been seen on the moon as well. So this is a huge cover-up.
It's a huge cover-up.
Yeah.
What do you foresee in terms of full disclosure? What would be your thoughts? Where do you think we're at with that?
I don't know whether we'll ever get full disclosure. Simple reason that there's too many people that are going to be in deep SHIT, simply because one of the reasons they kept it quiet, not only was because they didn't yet know what it was all going to mean, how the public was going to react to start with, this is in the 40s and whatever, but on top of that, they've reverse engineered a lot of technologies that they don't necessarily want the public to have, or other countries even, that have recovered craft. And this technology is everything. We've already got some of it: Teflon, night vision, the digital chip, fiber optics, all came from reverse engineering on the craft. But they also have technologies 30 years in advance of what we have, which is slowly disseminated to corporations, and they gradually release it as they can make money with it. And the big thing the public is going to be angry about is they have technology that means we don't need to use fossil fuels anymore, that we could actually clean up this planet, that we could cure all the diseases. What do you think the public's going to do if they find out that this has been hidden from them for many, many years, when maybe granddad died of cancer or my mother died of cancer and there's been a cure and they've not been access to it? People are going to be pretty pissed off. Yeah. And that is why, and because the structure, the power structure relies on fossil fuels, it relies on you paying for electricity. What do you think is going to happen if you get given a little bit of technology like this that will give you unlimited energy for the rest of your life? what are you gonna, you know, but that's been kept from you because they want you to continue to pay out to live on this planet or whatever. So, you know, to fully disclose that, unless they're forced, but there is a disclosure going on, a drip feed, and some of it is also from the many people that are writing books about their experiences now, that are owning up to, this is my reality. And it is amazing how more and more there is an acceptance that this is a reality, and it's slowly sifting into mainstream, because there has been a disclosure in the sense that there's been, the CIA have shown a craft that was seen, that they're actually called Tic Tac craft, was seen by pilots on HMS Nimitz just off San Diego, and it's been up, and it was picked up by mainstream news probably now a few months ago.
Oh wow!
I actually met one of the pilots that had taken the images, and there were hundreds that were blinking in and out, and the footage is there. It's been put out in mainstream. But one of the pilots I actually met, Kevin, he was one of them, and he said, Mary, there were hundreds, and they were blinking in and out, and they were literally chasing them, and they couldn't get close enough to do it. So he's actually wanting this disclosure, like many others in the military that know this is real, that have been told that, you know, up to date, they shouldn't talk about it.
But the problem is, isn't it, that even though I can imagine these things being leaked out into the mainstream, as you say, but we're so conditioned that a lot of people, even if they're being shown it, they won't believe it, because we have this conditioned veil, right? Cognitive
dissonance. We've got the problem of being so programmed on this planet, particularly in society, to anything that is beyond what we are taught is consensus reality, that this is this reality. Even doing what you're doing what I'm doing in mainstream is not real. We're fantasizing, we're imagining, we're doing all this stuff, despite the fact that the information is accurate and validated and makes sense to so many people. And it has been explored, consciousness has been explored in so many ways now, through remote viewing, through near-death experiences, those that have had shamanic experiences, those that have had, you know, learnt to astral travel. We've got all this going on, and yet you'll still get some scientists say, oh, we are just a biological system.
Yes.
There is nothing else. When you're dead, you're dead.
Yes. Oh my goodness, there was, I'm not going to be able to remember it now, but I remember us talking about different films when you were over last year, Mary. There was a great film that I've watched recently. I wonder whether it might be called AI. It's with Keanu Reeves.
Right.
Keanu Reeves, and his family die, and he's a sort of molecular biologist, and he brings them back to life. I'll find out what it is and I'll send it to you, and I'll post it in the group, because it was a really interesting film, somebody that just believes in the physical. But I want to pick up on, well, two things. First of all, I want to share, I do have some level of compassion and empathy for people who still have this programming, because when I woke up that morning and there were the 2 6-foot tall, what I now understand to be star beings, stood in my bedroom, it still took me at least 5 hours after that, even though my lights in my flat were going off and on, off and on, off and on, the 1111s coming up on the TV screen. I had been denying this reality for such a long time because I couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
It took me that long to be able to see it. So I can understand that. I think also, picking up on something you said earlier about the people in the clergy, were they in the clergy?
Yes, that you absolutely.
Go on. I was just going to say, I think that's fascinating because, I'm I mean, I love having conversations, right, with people from all different walks of life, probably exactly the same as you, Mary. And I've, you know, it doesn't matter to me whether you're a Jehovah Witness or whether you're Jewish or, you know, like, it doesn't really matter. If we can have a conversation and an interesting one, then I'm there. But it has been something of fascination to me why a lot of Christians, they, you know, when I've spoken to them about the 2 6-foot tall star beings, I've had more than one occasion people jump in immediately and say they were angels.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that was not how they were represented to me.
Yeah.
They were, and it's like, are we really just saying there's only angels and demons and nothing in between? It's interesting, isn't it?
Well, with that theme, when I wrote what I called the God chapter, I was actually challenging the religions to come clean in terms of what people see through a religious lens. For example, what someone sees as an angelic being could very well be, in the ET side of it, a light being, for example, same. But I always go back to part of the story in that chapter is about a young Indian man who wrote to me and said, Mary, my biggest problem, he said, is that I know I'm a starseed. I've always known I'm a starseed. He said, but my countrymen and my family and my relatives we've got about 100 gods, he said, that people worship in India. And he said, and I know they're extraterrestrials. And he said, but they're worshipping them. How do I deal with that? Knowing that they shouldn't be worshipping them because they're extraterrestrials. Ganesha, extraterrestrial being.
Total. You know, yeah.
All of them are with the technology that made them seem like gods because a few hundred years ago, that's how they were interpreted. And that was his dilemma, was he knew the truth. And so when you know, it is very confronting if you've been brought up and you subscribe to a certain belief system, when suddenly that is exposed in a new way with a new perspective, then that is very, very hard.
Very hard.
I mean, I don't want to offend, you know, Christians, because, you know, I do believe that you know, Christ was, I think he was a star being, but I will say that on my Christmas tree, instead of a star, I've got a UFO, because I actually believe that's what it was. So, you know.
At the top of your tree?
Yes, I've got a UFO.
That's so cool. I love that, Mary.
And I've got a little grey that's dressed up as a Santa as well.
Well, Fred.
Fred.
I know Fred. Of course I know Fred.
Everyone knows Fred.
Everyone knows Fred who knows you.
That's my lounge room. Fred's in my lounge room all the time, you see. So he's about this tall. So, you know, anyone that comes into my lounge room does a double take.
we get a happy Christmas from Fred every year with Santa Claus.
That's right. My point is, we have to understand that it isn't just this or this. It's the panorama.
It's the panorama, and we don't know. And we just don't know. And what I would like to add about hybrids is, because I do classify myself as a hybrid. That's the term that I would use. But I'm not just starseed.
Yeah.
I'm a hybrid mix of starseed, elemental, and human.
Yeah.
So we're not, and there will be other people, and maybe people who are watching this, and you might be a mix of elemental, more elemental energy, or even there are, and I've met people now, and I'm sure you've met people, more mythical energy.
Some have said that they feel the dragon energy.
Dragon energy is getting very high. Yeah.
So people don't just suddenly, oh, I think that's what I'm going to be. There is a really deep sense, real deep sense of knowing, and the universe
starts telling you.
Yeah.
This has been my experience. Right. You have like an intuition. You have a resonance, and my first resonance was watching your lecture. You know, it really was. And it wasn't a resonance. I mean, I was still, you know, back then I still had all these veils, and I was out of touch with, I didn't know how spirit spoke to me, but I was literally watching your lecture, and I had head to foot rushes going up and down my body, you know, and I was listening to this star language, and it was like this deep, deep knowing, but still, you have to still, and you know, thank goodness I'd just seen the 2 6-foot light beings and the lights and the 1111s, because I was open enough to receive it. But for years, you know, and we suppress these knowings and our reality, and it is so damaging. It is so damaging to so many people. And you know, I can speak openly about, I mean, I was the girl, I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, drinking like crazy, terrible anxiety, panic attacks, agoraphobia. Yeah. And this is what happens when you suppress your reality. Yes. Because you know, you're in a matrix which does that. And it's highly toxic, actually. It's highly toxic. So, you know, I am hugely grateful for you being my activator, and I do thank you, because even though it was I'm not going to deny it, it was a serious rite of passage, and there was a serious amount of fear that came up for me, going through that, coming out of that denial. But of course, you know, the universe is always kind, and I had the people put around me, and you were one of them, right, to help me to do that. But it's, you know, that is, you know, when we're talking about freedom, and we all want freedom, being free to experience your reality in the way that you're experiencing it is a huge gift. And I believe that you are the gift of that to many, many people. So I thank you.
Well, that's good to hear. What I've found more than anything, like yourself, even though it can be very confronting, people are seeking answers. They want to be able to join the dots. Ultimately, that's what you know, people come to me, I want to know the truth. I want to know if this is real. What's it all about? Why me? All the big questions ultimately are what they're seeking. And they won't get those answers unless they honor all those senses that are telling them the truth. That sense, that feeling, that knowing, all those things. When you start listening to those, then you start to really understand exactly who and what you are and why you're here. All those big questions start to come into your framework. Because, and while you're still in denial, because it's still challenging you, one of the reasons it's challenging you is because you need to look at it, not run away from it. And once you look at it and transcend that fear, then you're becoming truly multidimensional.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when the gifts, you know, people want the gifts, and it's like, when are my, you know, special gifts going to come online? Yeah. And, you know, that's, you know, that has been my experience. As soon as I stopped suppressing the reality, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, those beings in the bedroom that I've been seeing, that just means that I'm clairvoyant. Yes. Like, right. The voices that I used to run away from and drink like crazy from, just means I'm clairaudient. And it's like, that's what, and now it makes me laugh, because I'm in this environment where everybody wants it. It's like, how? And I'm like, I was like suppressing this for years, you know. That's right. So I love you. I love you're just straight down the line, and you're very ballsy, which I love. You have a lot of bravery to go out, and you know, you do prolific amounts of work. I know that you're always on a plane, going somewhere, doing a talk. You're big into the UFO community, as well as bridging into the spiritual community. So there is a lot of people all around the world that you have touched. I'm sure there are many who are watching this interview now. And, you know, on behalf of me and all of it, like, thank you, Mary. Thank you for your courage and your bravery, and your work does matter, and it's, you know, it's liberated many of us. So thank you for being the activator that you are.
Thank you, and I hope that the when I'm dead, that people still say that, or I'll probably have to come back 1,110 times.
Well, I'm pretty sure that if there is, who is it at the, well, when you're at the gates, I'm pretty sure that whoever's there to meet you, you're going to make them listen to you. So I don't think you can have a problem.
I hope you're right.
They know all about you. It won't be an issue.
Oh no, it's the alien lady. Not Erin.
Thank you so much, Mary. A pleasure and an honor as always. Thank you for these incredible stories that you share. Brazilian air hostess, hybrid feline babies that she didn't know that she had. I mean, where else could you hear any of this? So a joy and a pleasure. Any last words from you, Mary?
Well, only that it's always a pleasure talking to you. I think we've had a lot of fun together and what have you. And all I can honor you too for your dedication, for doing this, and for stepping out of the matrix into who you are, and helping, as we all are, you know, to help this planet evolve into a place that we'd all like to be, and for our, you know, our future children as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well, good to be on the team. What can I say? Thank you to all the viewers who have tuned in to watch this. And yes, normally, as you know, we do Ascension Talk with Ariella live on a Thursday at 4 p.m. But we are coming to you this week, obviously pre-recorded. Mary and I, brick girls as we are, but we're now living opposite sides of the world. So there is a big time difference. And yeah, so, and I really wanted to get this interview, and Mary, you don't know this either, or maybe you don't know this. This is going out on the 12/12 this Thursday. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Should have mentioned that. Yeah, happy 12/12 to everybody. Full moon. Just so happens to be the day that the elections are happening in the UK. Very interesting, right? So Ascension portal opening. So yeah, happy 12/12 activation, everybody. Yeah. Okay. See you soon. Thank you for watching.